and welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, known throughout the United States for the last 26 years as the Money Lady. And I'm delighted to be in your homes, your cars, whatever venue you're watching YouTube today. We have a phenomenal show. I have in the studio for the next hour John E. Moore, who is the founder of the African American Community Fund, a division of the Dayton Foundation in Dayton, Ohio. And I also have over that fund Whitney Briggs, who is their development officer. So you just want to sit down, relax, and watch this show. My commitment, as always, is to bring you the information and equip you with necessary knowledge so that you can begin to make appropriate financial decisions for you and your family. This has been my commitment for over 30 years, and I'm not wavering. And today I'm going to introduce you into the world of foundations, and more specifically, the African American Community Fund, which truthfully, viewers, is a unique fund nationally. I would also say it would be a prototype model for other foundations and nonprofits to consider a venue to begin to release money into affected communities, especially disadvantaged communities, which in today's world could include African Americans, could include the Latina community, could include single parents, single mothers. There are so many people today who are struggling to survive and to get through the economic challenges that are facing this world economy. So this particular fund was birthed out of the imagination and creativity of Mr. John E. Moore, which I must tell you, this man is a vibrant, alive senior. There's nothing slow moving about him. So you just might as well just get over it. When I tell seniors, just because you're older does not mean you're in a box. So we're going to turn this next hour over to my talking to these people about what they do, their vision, and sit back and enjoy. This is going to be a great show. So, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so delighted to have both of you in my world for the next hour, and I'm sure it's going to be a great, great, great time. Where do we want to begin? I'm going to kind of summarize the fun facts that you gave me, and just as a start, and then we're going to just see where we go with this, because there is so much, and I was up reading all the information you sent me, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I had an opportunity to review it carefully, to review your background. Mr. Moore, you are a force to be reckoned with. And but we'll start by the African American Community Fund, founded by Dayton Foundation Governing Board members John E. Moore Sr., former chair.
Yes.
My goodness. And Lloyd E. Lewis Jr. in 1991.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So that is how many years?
It's 20
plus.
20
Yeah,
years.
that's a long time. You all were pioneers.
Well,
Is that fair to say?
we had a dream.
You had, well, you made a dream an operating reality. And then your current AACF board president is Jessica Jenkins with the City of Dayton.
Yes.
This fund was created by and for African Americans to promote philanthropy in the African American community and serves as a national model. I want us to talk about that because that's powerful. You began with $50,000 from the Dayton Foundation Governing Board to be used as matching funds. And viewers, that simply means that if they give 50, someone else has to match it with 50. It includes over 130 funds of various types: scholarship, designated, field of interest, discretionary, and the charitable checking account, which I found to be absolutely novel. That was wonderful. The discretionary fund is used to provide grants to various nonprofits as administered by the African American Community Fund Grants Committee, which I'm sure you can speak on.
Yes.
Grant applications are currently available by request by local nonprofits and are due by June 25th of this year. So that deadline is
Yes.
done.
Yes.
This is powerful. The African American Community Fund, since inception, has contributed $2,345,410 to nonprofit organizations providing services within the community. That is powerful. And on that note, who wants to start first? Let's talk about the dream. Mr. Moore.
Well, when we talk about philanthropy and minority individuals,
Yes.
minorities have been giving about the same as the broader community in terms of their income to charitable institutions. But for the most part, when we started, the giving was to their churches, their fraternities and sororities and lodges, that type thing.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the minority community didn't even know what a community foundation was. And
Really?
absolutely.
Okay.
But that isn't really all that difficult to understand, because the broader community really didn't know too much about community foundations in about 1978 or so. So there was a real requirement to educate the broader community first.
Okay.
And then when we started to think about the minority community, we realized that they too had a limited knowledge of what the broader philanthropic challenges and opportunities were. At the time, in about 1989, that type thing, I was going to national foundation meetings, the Council on Foundations. And at the end of each of those meetings that I attended, there was a Black Foundation Executives Caucus that met.
Interesting.
And it had representatives from most of the major foundations, both private and community foundations.
Okay.
Cleveland, the Ford Foundation, and some of the heavy hitters happened to be minority leaders. So as we talked and caucused and had conversation, it was pretty apparent that minorities as a group had not really been challenged as a group to get engaged to a large extent. There were minorities who made contributions to community foundations, but the private foundations were funded by corporations or people of means, and they were private to those individuals and corporations. So as I listened and we talked and debated philanthropy, most of the conversation had to do with just simply setting up an account in a community foundation and funding it for minority causes.
Okay.
Well, that was what had been happening all along. I mean, there were accounts set up in different foundations for minority causes, but they were funded by other interests like corporations and individuals who were not necessarily minority persons. So it was my thought that we needed to get the minority community more engaged and committed, and some of us had started to have a little bit of money.
Okay. Okay.
Because
okay.
granted that the minority community, even now when we look at the net worth,
Right.
we're 20 times less
Right. Right.
have to have a huge amount of money.
Right.
So we just started with the thought that we needed to establish something in this community that would provide an opportunity for minority persons to get the advantage and help and assistance that a community foundation could give them. Because when they die and have a little bit of a legacy, they may want that legacy to go to one or more different causes. And as a result of those conversations, we came back to Dayton and the Dayton Foundation was truly supportive.
That is so powerful.
Yeah, the
Okay.
president at the time was a fellow by the name of Fred Bartenstein, and he was really excited about the concept. And Lloyd Lewis Jr., the late Lloyd Lewis Jr., was a member of our board, and I was chair at the time. So we established this idea that we wanted to have an African American community fund. And Lloyd, I asked him to be the first chair.
Okay.
And Lloyd readily agreed. And of course, Lloyd was a fantastic person. He had been in business in the Dayton community. He knew the African American community because of his business relationships and the work that he had done. So it was a perfect assignment for him.
Okay.
And
he was a white man.
No, he
No,
was
he's a black man.
He was a black man.
Okay.
No,
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful.
The Lewis family was a pioneering, so to speak, family. They had a sales and service business in West Dayton.
Okay.
And they pumped gas, repaired cars, sold appliances.
Okay. All right. He
He
was a businessman.
Yes, he was deeply into that.
Okay.
And then later he worked for the Dayton Power and Light. He was a military person, so he had a wonderful, well-rounded background.
Because if I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry, but didn't he help with the Ross dealership as well here in Dayton and help getting that started with the funding?
Yes, I'm sure he
That's
had.
interesting, because she's one of my guests today.
Janelle?
Yeah,
Yes.
she will be on after you.
Fantastic
Yeah,
young
she's
lady.
a neat lady.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay.
But anyway, we sort of got started with the matching funds as an incentive. We decided that we would match each gift dollar for dollar, 50 cents on a dollar. And I think the first year we had somewhere in the order of 300,000 or more.
Gifting.
Well, yes, in accounts that were established.
Exactly.
Yes, and
That's very good.
It just grew from there.
Yes.
And now we have more than $4.5 million in accounts,
I saw that. Yes.
which represent not only individuals, but there are minority institutions that have elected to establish accounts.
Really?
Yes, we have the parity organization itself that we represent as well. That has an account, Mary Scott Nursing Center. There are a whole series of institutions that have elected to establish funds, and
and you all match that?
the foundation matched that at the beginning.
Okay, all right. That's good.
But
I find that interesting.
the important thing is that I see that having an account in the African American Fund is like having your own foundation. You don't have to do anything, you just put your money in, and there's expert management and credibility in the foundation. And if we were talking about a private foundation, you would find that there are real tax issues
Of course.
and a lot of management requirements that most folk don't have a clue as to the extent of all that. But if you have an account in the African American Fund, you don't have to worry about any of that, because people like Whitney are experts, and they watch the money, and not only the money that is deposited there, but the important thing is that it is invested, and invested well enough so that there will be a return. In today's market, it's very difficult to get any reasonable return. So
but we want to make sure principal is intact.
We want to keep the principal intact,
that's key.
and we want to make sure that we earn enough money that we can make distribution to the different causes that the donors are interested in. If you or I or anyone were to establish an account, you as a donor can elect to advise as to how you want that money to go and to distribute it to those causes. You may want to do scholarships, you may want to give it to your church, you may want to give it to your sorority, you may want to give it to any one of a number of things that you feel are important. But the fact is there is real flexibility in terms of the kind of contract that can be developed for your money in the foundation. It isn't dedicated unless you want to designate it. In some cases, in my case, when I decide to leave this world, I'm going to leave the I'm going to leave the decision making as to where that money goes to the foundation membership, because they have will have a better perception of where the needs are long term on a continuing basis. So there's almost any kind of arrangement that you or anyone would like that can be established, so that the income from your fund will be not only managed, but it will go to the place that you really want it to go.
Now let me ask you a question, because one of the nice, powerful venues for any type of a foundation, of course, is the tax benefits, the ability to put family and many times into salary positions, that type of thing in a traditional private foundation. Does this operate in that way, or are you just simply writing your legacy request and designating that the money be used in certain ways? How does that work, Ms. Briggs?
You want to explain that, Whitney?
Sure.
Okay.
Essentially, no, it's not that you could elect to have, family members participate. As a community foundation, we essentially would do all of those kind of back office functions, kind of what you're thinking of.
Okay.
And so donors, as Mr. Moore stated, would create a fund. We have different types that are offered. In that fund agreement, they would identify how they want those monies to be distributed within the community, whether that be to a specific organization, or, as Mr. Moore alluded to, leaving it to the Dayton Foundation, which we call like a discretionary fund or community impact.
Okay.
So there's different ways that a donor can identify how they want the monies distributed. Again, you could have it go to several different charities. That is one of the requirements with a community foundation, in that the monies have to be distributed to a 501c3.
Absolutely.
So as far as individuals, you would not be able to give monies to an individual per se, but it has to go to a 501c3.
Now, the list of the different funds, the Darrell Ward Scholarship Fund, the Thursa
Fraser,
Fraser Scholarship Fund. That's a big one, $307,006. Is that that's what you mean when you refer to designated funds? You can look at what you all currently offer, and if it isn't what you want, you can identify conceptually what you'd want to do.
Exactly. I mean, the different services or types of funds. So, for example, that being a designated fund for scholarships, with the Thriser Fraser Scholarship. I'm still trying to get that out of my tongue.
I was like, okay, this is a good one.
But it is for her husband. Actually created that fund in her name. She was a first African American within higher education. I believe it was at Wilberforce University. And so he created that to have her legacy live on. One of the other services, which you kind of mentioned, was the charitable checking account. That's really kind of an introductory service to philanthropy. As mentioned,
how does that work?
It is very easy. It's
okay,
very
I like easy. I'm kind of like press the button, simple, please.
With that, you can actually go online and set up that service through the Dayton Foundation website. You can either do it online, or you can fill out a physical application. There are no minimums required. There are no fees associated with it. However, it does not have the investment component that you mentioned previously. Again, trying to utilize it as an introduction to philanthropy or community foundations. It's kind of like, okay, well, let me try it, see how it works. A lot of times people will utilize it to distribute to their churches, or if they give to their sororities or fraternities. So you've got everything in one place, as opposed to, okay, let me write a check for this, let me write a check for that. You can utilize the charitable checking account. We also have an online component with it, just like a bank, your checking account. If you want to go in and identify you want a check to go to this charity or 501c3, again, you can do all of that online.
And this community fund would fund that particular 501c3?
They would distribute the monies as you designate. So once you deposit monies into the account, then you identify where you want those monies distributed to. Yes.
Well, then that puts us in a national arena. That changes the whole focus.
The Dayton Foundation is only one of 7 community foundations nationally that offer that service.
Anything in this area outside of you all as far as a community foundation? Because I've never heard of it in Cincinnati. I'm just going to be very open with you.
You have a community foundation down there.
What is it?
Your Cincinnati Foundation.
Right, I know.
Yeah, but they are technically the same as the Dayton Foundation.
Really?
And we have talked to representatives of the Sigma Boule, and the Sigma Boule has talked to representatives of the Cincinnati Foundation, and to my knowledge, they have started an African American community fund in the Cincinnati Foundation, and the Sigma Boule down there, I think, is sort of the group that is marketing this throughout Cincinnati. And we also have been instrumental in helping the Springfield Community Foundation, and they have an operational African American community fund. I think they've been in business maybe about 5 years or so.
But you all are still the pioneer.
Yes,
we not in terms of concept and
established
execution.
the model.
Right, the model is here.
Yes.
Okay, all righty.
The other thing about the charitable checking account that also applies to the endowment type account is that the money that you put in, for example, if you have stock that has appreciated, if you donate that or use that to put into the charitable checking account, you get a tax benefit from it. So there's a real tax benefit from
So that's on stocks, but can you move any other assets?
yes.
You have to liquidate, or do you, to make that type of a donation, do you all do the liquidation? Say a person wants to...
They do the processing of whatever the asset happens
for
to be.
stocks, IRAs, we do have within the Dayton Foundation a department that handles that. So if you wanted to, again, you can always use cash. You can use, you can even use a credit card, believe it or not, as well. People like to get the points, from what I understand.
People like to get the points.
But yes, you can also use, again, stocks, IRAs. People will utilize property. We do have our gift acceptance committee if people want to utilize property to try and fund an agreement. So there's different ways that you can do it, insurance policies as well. So there's a number of ways that you can fund an account with the Dayton Foundation.
Well, I certainly, because legacy planning is something that I've done for, I guess, almost 30 years now. I've been involved in CRATs, and as well as just simply transference of assets. But you want to make sure that there are some tax benefits in doing conveyances. That is extremely important. I find this to be absolutely fascinating, and I also noted that C.J. McGlynn has a scholarship fund.
He was one of the first to establish an account.
An amazing man.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
I'm serious. His daughter Ryan was on the show, and I consider her a friend. But this man was such a pioneer and a visionary.
He was.
And to see what that there is a scholarship fund, so people can, in fact, write checks. Am I right now? They can write checks and designate that money go to that fund. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. You can add any of those funds that are established.
This is
or establish a new
amazing.
one
Okay.
Yeah.
You can establish a new one, but you can also,
Yes.
if you wanted to make a donation to this particular scholarship
Yes.
fund. Now, would the foundation match those dollars? So if you wrote a check for, say, 2,000, would the scholarship fund then get 4,000, or am I not clear?
At this point, there is, in recognition or celebration of AACF's anniversary,
Okay.
we do have an incentive program going through December of 2013.
Okay.
Within that program, if you open a new charitable checking account, and again, there's no fees, there's no
That is
minimums.
so amazing.
What the Dayton Foundation will do is match dollar for dollar. Once you open the account, we'll match dollar for dollar up to $1,000 when you make distributions. So let's say you open a charitable checking account.
Okay.
And then you make a distribution to, say, Mary Scott Nursing Home, as Mr. Moore alluded to. Then the Dayton Foundation will match dollar for dollar up to $1,000 to the AACF discretionary fund. So the intent is that it allows the discretionary fund for AACF to grow so that we can, the committee that you mentioned earlier, actually give out more monies in discretionary grants. That's one part of the incentive program. The other part is the endowment fund.
Okay.
Those are more of the long-term, what we call pure endowments, where there is the investment component. Normally, we recommend at least $25,000.
Right.
So
right.
what the Dayton Foundation is, again, in honor of the celebration for AACF, is for up to $16,675, the Dayton Foundation will match 50 cents on the dollar for you to get up to the $25,000.
Okay.
So normally what I recommend is start with a charitable checking account. Get your money built up to the $16,000 plus, and then once you reach that threshold, you can move it over into an endowment fund so that you can create your legacy and you still have your charitable checking account. So it's twofold in that, one, it allows you to get into charity, give into charity in an organized manner or philanthropy. As well, it helps to benefit the African American Community Fund, and you're still, again, helping others that have a need. So it's
well, the thing that's so powerful, and I only say this because the argument that has been rendered over the years is that poor people, and many times poor means is connected to black, are always asking for a handout, and that we're never givers, and we're never we never create vehicles and instruments to pass on to future generations. That is a criticism that is often, and I think unfairly, leveled, because you cannot broad sweep people. There are always classes of people, some that have more, some that have less. But under this venue, as I understand it, even a person of modest means has a venue for making contribution. Is that not correct?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, if we think about the total minority or particularly African American community, we have assets that are equivalent to the economy of Canada.
Absolutely.
Now, that's a
On
lot
an
of money.
aggregate. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, yeah, we do. We're
Yeah.
not
no.
we're not poor.
But we do not have, on an average or median income, what the broad American community has.
Right.
But we do now have enough folk who have enough income to take care of their normal requirements and set a little bit aside. So we're now at a point where we can, I think, take advantage of the opportunities and service. It is a service that is rendered by the Dayton Foundation and the African American Fund, particularly in terms of managing our personal assets.
Right.
And we're finding, as you can look at those different accounts,
Yes.
folks have some rather significant amounts
I
that
must
they've
tell
been
you,
able to turn loose.
I was very impressed.
Yes.
I was.
I've not seen anybody take anything with them when they pass away from this place.
Purses do not line up at the bank.
No.
They don't do that.
So the other thing about the endowment fund is I kind of tell it, if you stand on a street corner and somebody offered you over $8,000, then that's exactly what the Dayton Foundation does in order to encourage an individual to establish an endowment account if they are committed to putting in the 16,000 plus for a total of 25,000, as Whitney has indicated. You have to do 2/3, so to speak, and they will put in the remainder. But it's really an $8,000+ gift to an individual or institution during this matching period, which goes through December of 2013.
Right,
yes.
right.
But it's a real opportunity to max out an account.
Well, this is, in my estimation, this is really the next step, because I share with people, particularly since my background and my focus in private practice is retirees and seniors and elder. That I deal with legacy regularly. Now, the big challenge today, though, and I'm just thinking, is so many people are worried, seniors, even the well-to-do, about outliving their resources. And how does this compete, or is it, when you look at planning, do your advisors, are they integral to this process? Are they involved and engaged in advising their clients to do this?
I would agree that they are. One of the things that we try to do at the Dayton Foundation and as a development officer is work with advisors, estate planners, so that one, their clients know that we exist, and it is a way for them, again, to have their legacy live on. But as far as those individuals, you know, it is being communicated to them that it's out there. Another group that is big now is those individuals who do not have children.
Right,
as far
a
as
lot of them
things
don't.
to plan for the future. And so this is a way for them, if they have a specific interest within the community, that they could help that to live on as some place to be able to give their monies and help others. So we do strongly encourage people to, you know, become aware of the Community Foundation, see what it is that we do, see how it is that we impact the community, and you know, consider putting this as part of your estate planning. So we do that with the individuals as well as organizations, as Mr. Moore alluded to, and the advisors. So.
Well, the thing that comes to me, and of course, the month of November that we're taping as we speak is Long-Term Care Month. That's a very real issue for many, many retirees today, which is, if I become ill and then have to need help, then I'm going to be depleting assets. But the thought that occurred to me as you were speaking is there are products available right now where if you do not use that benefit, you can name a beneficiary. And the thought that occurs to me is that that beneficiary needs to be this fund.
That's a possibility. As a matter of fact, we have suggested that folks who have insurance policies that they really don't need the benefits from can designate or donate that policy to their respective fund. As a matter of fact, I have an insurance policy that when I pass on, I think they find a death certificate, send it to the insurance company, then a little bit of money is going to go to my and my wife's fund because that was the easiest way for us to put some additional money in our account.
Absolutely.
But insurance is a wonderful and exceptional opportunity for individuals to make a contribution and not have to take a huge cash lump sum from someplace and put it into
well, I'm just thinking
this kind of legacy.
This is for long-term planning purposes. That is awesome.
Legacy planning.
It's the legacy planning. But it just occurred to me as you were speaking, I said, well, the big hot button among seniors today is this issue of long-term care. And
well, it's a really not understood or misunderstood life challenge.
It is. It is.
Because most folk haven't really thought about long-term care.
I know they haven't.
They've got the Medicare and they don't even know anything about Medicaid, but the point is that if you don't do a little planning, you're going to find that you're going to be broke
Yeah.
And all your assets will go to the state or
Yeah.
to the nursing care.
Yep.
And you'll be without having any assets left if you live, you know,
Right.
as a person needing long-term care very long. And it
Mr.
doesn't
Moore,
take
you're
long.
sharp. God, I need to
Well.
make you a poster child. No, I was
Well,
just thinking because if they don't, the argument that's rendered by so many seniors, and particularly with African Americans, which is, why am I paying out all this premium and I may never use it? Well, again, the thought was, because I do have companies that have product where if you don't use it, upon your demise, it goes to a beneficiary. And I said this would be
That
an
would be great.
ideal situation
Yes, yes.
to tell them, listen,
Yeah.
you have an opportunity to leave a legacy to a stable foundation. That's a little bit different, and I don't mean to discredit other nonprofits, but I feel a lot better giving to this type of a venue than even making bequeaths to your favorite, you know, charity or something. A foundation is so stable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
It's just different.
the good thing about establishing an account, the corpus, whatever that amounts to, it'll be there forever. And you'll only spend the income from
Right.
that fund. And I think the great feature is the fact that it'll be there. If you give money to a charity like Red Cross or the United Way, they'll use it up during
Oh,
that
they're
calendar
going to.
year. So
Exactly.
then they'll be back tomorrow, next
Right,
year,
right.
asking you for more money. Or
Right.
if you give it to your church,
Right,
they'll spend it right now.
Right,
And
right,
then you'll
for
have to-
operations
yeah,
or,
yeah.
I mean, whatever.
And then you have to start all over again when the new fiscal year, calendar year, whatever it is, starts. So
That
that's
is
a really
powerful.
important feature.
John, that
Yeah.
is very powerful because you have set my mind to thinking a little bit differently as I'm understanding it, because it's about getting an understanding.
Yes.
Yes.
This
And,
thing is
and
in perpetuity.
this is in perpetuity.
Yes.
And that is extremely important
Yes.
for people as they're thinking on down the road, which is, if I make a grant, if I make a donation, if I leave a bequeath, is this group even going to be around? Because things do happen
Oh, absolutely.
all the time. And whereas with something like this, and that's one of the powerful things about a foundation, but it appears from what you're sharing with me that you all have essentially set up a situation where a person can have that financial continuity and stability, which is built into the concept of a foundation,
Yes.
while providing you with extreme flexibility.
Yes.
Yes.
That is absolutely
You're in
wonderful.
control of whatever happens to your account. You can decide and work out a written agreement with the foundation in terms of what those conditions or terms are. So there isn't any misunderstanding as to what your desires are as a contributor or customer. And that's so terribly important.
Well, let's talk about how this concept, because frankly, a ton of people that have wealth that are of African American descent do not reside here. Many seniors relocate. They may have started their lives, raised their children here, but they're now in Florida or they're in the Carolinas or anywhere.
Where?
Seniors are a mobile group today.
Yes.
They're up.
Yes.
They're subject to
Yes.
up and go.
Yes.
Right.
Is there any kind of thinking as you move into the next year, 2013 is almost here, where this particular product can be presented or made available to seniors that are in other parts of the United States?
Well, I think the foundation has done a limited job of featuring this program, the Dayton Foundation, not the African American Community Fund so
Right.
much. But I know that the foundation president has shared this at the state level, particularly because he was chair of the state organization.
Okay.
And has shared it there. But from a national point of view, I'm not sure that it's gotten the kind of visibility that it deserves. But from a state level, I think that that word has gotten around. And to some extent, I'm sure that some of the other national organizations or states have been made aware of it. But I don't think there's been the hard marketing campaign I think that you're alluding to.
Well, as we look at technology today, and like I said, even with this show is going to be on YouTube. Any senior that types in senior, this show's going to come up. And it just seems to me that that is a potential. I'm not even saying it's in sync with what your long-term goals are, but I do know that seniors are mobile.
Oh, absolutely.
And they go, and many times permanently and many times not. But the fact that there is a venue available that they could take advantage of fairly quickly, especially when you were talking about, I personally, when people move, I tell them, you need to do something with that real estate.
Yes.
You're not coming back. So what are you going to do with the real estate? If it's a house, well, I want to leave it to my children. Your children don't want the house. That's what life insurance is for. But these are opportunities that could present themselves, and I just wanted to know if you thought about that.
Well, one of the things as a development officer, that's kind of my responsibility, is to go out and speak to individuals, organizations, whomever may want to get more information about the Dayton Foundation, the AACF. So certainly, you know, there has been communications with different groups, you know, outside of the Dayton area. And particularly with the Dayton Foundation, I think one of the things that recently has helped kind of get us national recognition is with the Arts Alliance.
Tell me more about that.
The Dayton Foundation, as a community foundation, has been instrumental with the Art Alliance within Dayton as far as the performing arts, the ballet, where they have decided to work together, and all of their back office functions are under one roof as a way, as a means to essentially save money. And there has been, one of my coworkers recently spoke in Miami in regards to that. So the Dayton Foundation, just like with the African American Community Fund, has been instrumental in trying to help push different initiatives, that being one of them. And so when you talk about the opportunity to speak to other organizations outside of the Dayton area, certainly it is there. I think we will be open to speaking about AACF and letting, you know, those different senior groups or others know that it does exist. It is a way for you to leave a legacy. So that opportunity is there. Of your choice.
Yes. The thing that's so powerful that that Mr. Moore said, you can actually designate based on your bequeath. It does not have to be, what do we call this, cluster of funds, but you can actually have it professionally managed in perpetuity.
Correct.
With principal assured, and that changes the context of that entire fund.
Yes.
Well, the other thing I think that is important for people to understand and to appreciate is the fact that the foundation is reputable and credible.
Yes.
We don't mind putting our money in banks. Banks aren't giving you much return these days, but you trust the bank. Somehow you think it's going to be there. As a matter of fact, the federal government guarantees up to $250,000 that you put in there. So there's a trust factor, but there is that kind of trust that you can put into the Dayton Foundation because of its management acumen and the staff that is there. They have legal experts, they have social service folks, I mean, HR folks, they've got the whole gamut. So you're really affiliating with a team of experts and with an organization that is credible, one that's been here, as the Dayton Foundation has, since 1922. So it's not a new venue, it's something that has been here. And I know we're all very suspicious of where we put our money, who we give it to. And I'm just wanting to say that we can be pretty comfortable in terms of putting our assets into a African American Community Fund account with the Dayton Foundation, because they do have that level of expertise
And
and
plus
credibility.
20 years, your fund.
Yes, yes,
20 years,
yes.
and you were involved with the Dayton Foundation yourself.
20 years prior to that.
Yes.
Yes.
Now that is longevity.
The-
Told you, Mr. Moore, you're impressive.
The Dayton Foundation was at the same point as the African American Community Fund when I first joined.
Really?
The community didn't know what a community foundation was. And we had to go out, we had breakfasts and lunches and people in small groups. We talked to the lawyers, the financial advisors, the accountants, anybody that would listen. And after a while, you know, it took traction. And at that time, we only had about the same level of assets that the African American Community Fund had. But now they're somewhere around $400 million.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I was pulling up their information too.
Yes.
So,
I was.
So
yeah.
they have achieved great things with regard to growing the corpus of the whole foundation. And it just sort of, I think, speaks to the potential that we have for the African American Community Fund, say 20 years down the road.
Oh, I think there's no limit.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
we look at what you're doing, and then I was looking at the different funds through this charitable checking account and what you all are funding through that venue. And it's funny, I saw the Calvin and Adrian Hurd
Yes,
Family Fund. I'm
yes.
having lunch with her today. She's a neat lady.
She is,
She
she
is a
is.
delightful lady, and
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
looking forward to that.
Yeah,
But
Calvin serves as the vice president for the AACF board at
Really?
this time. Yes.
this
yes.
is such a small world.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's getting smaller and
Oh,
smaller.
absolutely.
Yes,
And
it
that is good. The other thing I wanted to compliment your endowment fund is that after those two economic dips, and you all are right back on track
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
in terms of your performance.
Well, yeah, and how goes the stock market, so goes the foundation assets.
Yes,
Yes.
that's true, but
And,
no loss of principal.
No.
That's what I'm looking
Yeah,
at.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
No loss of principal.
Yeah, and the gentleman who works with Eugene
him.
Heflin
Yeah,
is the
Fay
financial
knows,
advisor,
yes,
yes,
yeah,
for the African American
Yeah.
Community Fund.
Stratus,
He is
yeah.
he is very conservative with making sure that, you know, again, there is that growth, and as Mr. Moore stated, making sure that there is that comfort that, you know, there's not a loss. Certainly, the stock market has been, you know, kind of up and down.
It's going to be. That's
but
just the nature of
Yeah.
equity.
That's true.
Yeah.
And so, but still making sure that we stay conservative so that people can have a sense of comfort that, again, the funds are going to be there.
Well, I'd like to kind of summarize the following gifts to charity, because I felt this was quite powerful again, that your average annual gift is $139,503. Some of your largest grants are for education, and that is so important today.
Yes.
Well, people of color, we appreciate education.
Education.
Well, you know, my grandma said, and you know, we were all just, I mean, as I tell people, black people were poor, and education was the gateway.
Well, it was against the law to get an education.
You're right.
You know, back
Back
my
in the day,
grandfather,
yeah.
also, you
Yeah,
were supposed to
Right.
read,
right.
write, and learn anything.
We're there again. It's perfectly legal, but now the issue of the need for these kinds of things. And I was looking at your projections for, again, funding in education and health and human services. Very large commitments,
Yes.
very large commitments.
We have needs across the board.
Yes,
in
that's
our
what I was
community.
looking at, yeah.
And the thing that I have been pointing to in some of my discussions is the Urban League. You know, they put out a publication called The State of Black America. And they have done an index. And that index sort of measures from one year to another, where we, meaning minorities, are as compared to the broader community. And for the last several years, we have not really closed the gap, whether it's education or income or
In fact,
economic development, and it varies as to how big that gap is, depending on the category that you accept. So there is no limit to what you can select to support from a financial point of view. And while we understand and we still want the broader community, the other foundations, public and private, to support our causes and needs, we need to be able to, I think, have a role to play.
Absolutely.
And not only in receiving, but in terms of giving.
Absolutely.
And that's what this is all about.
Well, I must tell you that I so respect and endorse your position that we must be givers.
Yes.
That those of us, and even down to small amounts, are there any opportunities for people just to make a small donation? How does that work?
I mean, if an individual and/or organization is wanting to make a donation to any of the funds that are listed in what you're looking at as our annual report, they can do that at any time. So if they're, for example, we were speaking to the care of, seniors, for example, Mary Scott Nursing Home, they have a fund. If they would want to make a donation to their fund, for example, they can certainly do that. So there's always the opportunity to make a donation to any of the funds that we have within AACF. And at the point that they make that contribution, they do receive a tax deduction for that. They will receive an acknowledgement letter so that for...
In the year of the donation.
That's correct.
Okay.
Correct. Okay. So again, you can make a donation to any of the funds that are listed there at any point.
Okay. So may I ask you, why would an individual want to make a donation, just an inquiry, into a nursing home?
I think that, there is certainly a need, kind of that was mentioned earlier. Operating costs for nursing homes
it's horrible. Yes,
right.
Very expensive.
So, I think those are some of the things that need to be kept in, the thought process is, they have to operate.
They do. So, but this is a nonprofit nursing home.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
501c3.
Correct.
Okay. That's very unusual.
Well, let me say one more thing. I think it's important for people here to know that Mary Scott Nursing Home that has that account is only one of 4 minority-owned nursing homes in the state.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And because of the financial condition and long-term care costs,
Oh, God.
most of their residents are Medicaid.
Understand, indigents,
So the
right.
Medicaid reimbursements are not very generous.
Right.
So
right.
that means in order to give the quality care that they do give,
Yes.
there's a need for them to have supplemental funds from
Understand.
charitable sources
Right.
in order to be able to do that.
Right.
Because as you know, the state cut the reimbursement rate last year about 5%, and this is just
Well,
one
there
of
in
several.
Cincinnati, one of the an African American owned nursing home that I was very involved in terms of I love seniors. Okay, and they closed their doors.
Yes.
They could not stay open because of the cutbacks.
They can't make
in
it
the
on the
Medicaid.
Medicaid.
They cannot.
No, we
And,
raised $3.5 million starting, say, 4 years ago to renovate this facility, and we raised another $500,000 within the last year
Yes.
to supplement the reimbursement.
I think that is so honorable.
But
I have to tell you that
yeah.
that is so very, very honorable. Well, time is wrapping up, if you can believe that. It goes
Go by
fast when you're
quickly.
having fun.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
And I just wanted to ask you just very simply, in a minute, what do you see as your largest challenge facing your type of a funding vehicle through the foundation. What do you see as we go through these years ahead? What do you see as your greatest challenge?
I would think letting people know, one, that it exists,
Okay.
and two, understanding that you don't have to be a millionaire to
do a
actually participate. So.
And you, sir?
Well, I think it's important that we do exactly as Whitney has indicated, getting the word out. But I think the other thing is that we need to also get the word out that we do have all of these requirements and needs in our community, and that as you agree or decide to participate, that you're doing it to do some good in this community, because so many folks don't think beyond having to give some money for something, but this is to give money for something that is important, that represents a genuine need in our community, and we need to be part of the solution as opposed to the problem.
Eloquently stated. Well, viewers, wasn't this amazing? I told you so. John E. Moore Sr., I would that he would live a long, long time.
Oh.
I'm sure he agrees. I'm sure his wife agrees as well. And same thing with Miss Briggs.
Yeah.
The world of foundations, it is affordable, and the requirements in the days ahead, as you are going to see, the government cannot and will not do it all. Those days are over. We must be willing to go deep and to recognize that giving is a part of living. And philanthropy, in my opinion, is the highest expression of love. So I conclude today's segment of The Power of Money, where my guests were John E. Moore Sr. and Whitney Briggs from the African American Community Fund, a division of the Dayton Foundation in Dayton, Ohio, talking about the power of charitable giving. You have a pleasant day, and God bless. See you next time. Bye-bye.